Hello there. My name is Jack Epstein. You are inside my store Chocolate Covered on 24th Street in Noe Valley. Chocolate Covered is comprised of two things: chocolate from all over the world, from over 100 companies, from over 18 countries, and boxes. And the boxes I hand make. I and a few people who help me hand make these boxes. They're decorative tins. Occasionally we work on wood. The idea is that one can come in here and just buy chocolate, one could come and just buy a box off the wall, one could have custom boxes made, and if appropriate, we put the two together for a really perfect gift. A well-chosen container and perfect contents to go along with it. Right now I'm going to show you a little bit how some of these boxes are made and the evolution on how this started. I started this store over 20 years ago with the idea of doing chocolate and gifts, and at that time I had no plan to be hand making any products for the store. I had come out of the arts and crafts show world and was planning to buy from my friends and acquaintances, which I did for a few years. And then at some point I started focusing just on boxes, and at some point I started making simple decorative boxes using art paper. I got attracted to art paper, having worked with fabric. One of my chocolatiers used handmade papers to wrap his bars in, and it got me thinking about making small decorative boxes. I started with paper like this. This is pressed flower paper from Indonesia, possibly. Mulberry bark paper we use in solid colors. I also use Japanese washi paper, which is this paper over here. These are 2-foot by 3-foot sheets of paper. And then at some point, I added a photo process. Friends of mine at the craft show world who used to do clothing, John and Barbara at Blueprints, they worked this process on fabric. And I asked them one day if I can do on paper what they did on fabric, and they essentially said, duh. I went to their studio 20 years ago, or 18 years or so ago, made a negative, one of their negatives, made a print. And then I said, I think we got something here. And so I started doing it. And I started using the Japanese paper mainly because of its wonderful quality and the fact that it was blue. And the photo process I'm going to show you is a blue and white photo process called cyanotype, dating back to 1842. It's a chemical reaction of iron salts and ultraviolet light. First, I mix two chemicals in hot water, a red and a green in a 2-to-1 ratio, and that makes an emulsion, which I brush on 90-pound cold-pressed watercolor paper. Then I create negative images on transparencies. This is a negative image of the Golden Gate Bridge. In a couple of minutes, I'm going to put a print under the light to cook. But first, I'm going to show you just how to prep a box, because there's a lot of work that goes into these. I'm going to put on my Ben Franklins here. And I have taken 3 sheets of this Japanese art paper and stacked them, and then I have cut them into strips. Measure, cut, measure, cut, measure, cut. A bit monotonous. So now I have this glue that I found works, which I buy from an adhesive company in giant tubs. This is not Nancy's yogurt in here that we're working with. This is a water-based glue. Everything I do is water-based. It's not. So right now the handwork is to prepare the box, is to take the blank box, and just by paying attention, it's not exactly difficult work, but one has to pay attention, and that goes around, and now it's taking down the bottom. So what I'm doing is one piece is going to overlap on the bottom, and the top piece is going to overlap on the top, and then a bottom piece will go on in the blue, and then eventually a top piece will go on with a photograph. And then after that sits for a couple of hours, it's coated with a floor wax once, and then it's coated again. And at that point, it's done. And at that point, you can clean it and wipe it and put whatever you want in it. So now the bottom is done. And now we take a matching piece. These will cut sequentially. The top is larger than the bottoms because circumference. So I try to make it match in the front, and I don't worry about when it's off a fraction in the back. So we pull that over there, and as you can see, the pattern is now a match, at least in the front. And then this goes back around. And here we go again with thumb pushing it down. I got my technique. I've had people that I've hired to work. They have their own. This works for me.
How long would you say the process is?
You know, I really don't want to add it up because I'd have to raise my prices. I do everything in groups. I don't do this normally one at a time. I do batches of anywhere from 20 to 50 to make it economically work. If you were just doing this and adding up the time it took to make one box and pull out all your supplies and make one box and clean up after one box, it would not make any sense.
Do you do custom work?
That's something we definitely do. We will take any image as long as it has decent light and dark contrast. It can be a photo, a drawing, a postcard, a book cover. I've taken images off of t-shirts and tote bags, movie box rentals. It just has to be something that I can grab the graphics off of somehow, and it has to have some contrast. And this goes on like this. We glue it again, and then that is now, this goes on, and so now you have a box that is trimmed and ready to have a top put on it. And I go over it and over it, maybe more than I need to, but I'm used to doing this. So that box is now, what I use is 90-pound cold press watercolor paper. Once you starts out white like that, once you treat it, it actually goes to a lighter green than this. This has been oxidizing for a little bit, and so it's turned a little bit darker than it is when it's first treated, but it still prints fine. So at this point, I would take a, where is it? Where's my, I'm missing something here. Where is that? Yep. Well, what I was planning to do is, what do I do with the negative and the, oh, here it is. That's part of it. This is this. Now, what did I do? Let's see, I just printed something, and here it is. It's easy to miss. This is the negative that will print a Golden Gate Bridge image. That is my best image. I do have 5,000 different images, but of course, we sell a lot of Golden Gate Bridges, and we're very happy to do so. So, to print with, I take a little matte piece. I line up the print so that it's the way I want, and I've actually used this negative to make various size prints, and that goes there, and then a sheet of glass is going to go on top of that, and this is a 4-foot long fluorescent high intensity ultraviolet light that I had custom built for myself. I actually have 2 of these, this one here. Now we're going to time that for about 8 or 9 minutes, and we don't have the time to do that now, but this is the one I cooked a few minutes ago. It is soaking in the water, so it goes from white to light green, and when it's exposed it turns very dark, and then when you rinse it, voila, the image magically appears. Now this will sit and dry, and then once it's dried it would get glued down to the top of that box. Then it would sit, as I mentioned, for a couple hours where we would coat it once again, and then a couple more hours, and then you have a box. And I can take any image. If you'll pan over to my family photos there, you'll see what I've done with my own family photos. The gentleman with the tailor thing, the measuring thing around his neck, is my grandfather. And this is my parents' wedding picture over here.
So these make great holiday gifts.
This is what, you know, people cry when you choose the right image. That's myself there, looking a little better than I do today. It's really fun. I get people who come back after several years and say, I gave this gift to these people, and when we go there, they still talk about it. It's on their mantelpiece. Now, it's really a matter of how well you choose the image and that I execute it decently. I'm not saying every box I make people will treasure and treasure, but if we get the right image to the right person, that is the reaction you will get. I've heard it countless times.
That's great, Jack. And a little bit about the history behind this?
Okay, well, as I mentioned, it's been an evolution of trying to do the gifts and the chocolate, and right now this project that you see all over the walls is over 2,500 different images of San Francisco, over 1,600 streets, over 900 schools, parks, and businesses. For the first 8 or 10 years that I did this, I did the random cultural images plus custom. About 10 years ago, I started with a dozen Noe Valley streets, and people asked for Bartlett and Mission, and they asked for streets in Glen Park and in Bernal Heights, and so at some point I just went for it and decided that every street in the city is a target, no matter how big or small. And I started walking from Noe Valley, where I live here, in every direction, taking photographs. And at some point I had to start driving, parking in different neighborhoods and taking photographs. And I've done most, but not all, the city. I always welcome it when someone will bring in one of the 800 or so streets we haven't done yet. We'll do theirs for no custom fee, make one for them and add one to the wall, no matter how small the street is. And the same thing with any school, any park, any noteworthy business in the city. You just bring it in, I'll make you one, then I'll make me one. I don't mind letting people in on this project. I do not have to have taken every picture. I'm very happy to just, do whatever someone wants. Like I say, we do quantities of 1 on up. How's that? Are you all set here? Cool. I'm very happy to just, do whatever someone wants. Like I say, we do quantities of 1 on up. How's that? Are you all set here? Cool.